So, hi, Brad. I'm Esther. Nice to be on this call with you.
Awesome. I'm so excited to hear the results of the survey that I commissioned from you guys.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share it with you, and we're gonna go right into it. I'll explain the objective, and we'll go through all of the results about the U.S. monetary system and how the general population in the U.S. currently views Bitcoin, whether they're interested in it, afraid of it, and we're going to dissect that information by generation, by socioeconomic class, and also by genders.
Perfect. That was a good take two.
Perfect. So, just a little bit for your information about who I am. I got my Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Toronto in psychology and statistics. And then I went to Harvard University to focus a little bit more on economics. One of my first real gigs was as a researcher at Canada Goose, which was super interesting. And now I am the Associate Director at Hotspex.
Oh, so you probably enjoyed this survey then if you studied economics.
I enjoyed it tremendously, and I was also, the word would be flabbergasted by the results that we got in.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me to do. So the research objective that we went for was to better understand how well the average person in the United States understands Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and which demographic is most inclined to invest and most positive about Bitcoin. And then we also examined the general population's knowledge and understanding by both age and socioeconomic class of the US monetary systems and financial stock market. And then, of course, the goal is to really guide investor decision making around cryptocurrencies and who their target demographic could be and who we expect it to be.
Excellent. And then hopefully we can do the follow-up. We'll get some pricing on that and be able to find how much it'll cost to get to measure this across different like locations, like Africa and China and India and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually got that in for you. So
Okay,
I
perfect.
can send that to you after we go through these results. Yeah.
And
Uh,
I
mhm.
think you missed it on this go around, but what was Hotspex? You said Hotspex has a bunch of offices all around the world.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do. Yeah, right now we're an international firm, so we've offices in Toronto, in New York, in London, Chicago, and in Tel Aviv, our newest one.
Awesome.
Yes. And also, just as a fun fact, our focus is on emotional sciences, so really understanding how people relate to brands at an emotional level. And this is a little bit just more focused on people's knowledge and understanding. But it could be interesting to also, at some point, interweave people's, emotional perspective on Bitcoin. Are some people not investing because of fear or because of, not really knowing who's behind it? But
Well,
that could
that's
be.
why I
Mhm.
wanted to do this because most of the people that are in this space, they think about technology. They think about the technology side.
Right.
And I'm a regular person, so I sympathize and relate and think like a regular person. I like to play video games, like to watch movies and Netflix, and I don't have a business background. I didn't go to Harvard like you. So it's like most people in the Bitcoin world don't look at this from an emotional perspective or from an average person's perspective. So I'm just really curious and like want to deep think about how the regular person views the money system and Bitcoin and then taking it past that, what can I do to help people get prepared for a potential negative scenario with the US money system by, getting some Bitcoin. But then most people, unless there's a FOMO event like a bubble, a stock market type bubble in the price of Bitcoin, people don't pay attention to it. So this just sort of like for me to help me understand why people don't do that, and if it's frivolous for me to even try to convince people about Bitcoin if they're not naturally like sucked in because the price is going up.
Right.
Yeah, so to understand their emotional reaction to Bitcoin and money.
Yeah, I think
So that's great.
I think that'll be really interesting. At the very end, I actually want to talk about, barriers. And, we'll see a certain amount of people shift throughout the survey. And one thing to say, um, we did, for those listening, we started asking them one question at the end of the survey. We asked them the same question to see how much has changed. And, and we'll get there, but it'll be interesting to see, those people that didn't change their mind, even though they were given all this really useful information, what were those barriers still stopping them? And how can
And you were able to measure that?
Well, part of it, yes. And then we'll see
awesome.
for a follow-up study, what else did we not capture in our first round?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So just as our sample, we ended up surveying over 800 people that live in the United States, equal numbers of men and women. The survey was in market in early February of 2020, so super relevant and current information. Ages between 18 to 65. And then just in terms of our methodology, it was an online survey of 17 questions about the US monetary system and cryptocurrencies. Yeah?
Perfect.
Beautiful. So the way that I looked at this data that we got back was through the lens of 3 hypotheses. So we could either, accept them and say, yes, this is, our hypothesis was correct, or if they were not correct, we'll reject them. So the very first one was about gender differences. And, we do hypothesize that there will be certain gender differences throughout the survey. So that's why we'll take a look at them. And then hypothesis 2, demographic differences, that there will be a difference among the generations. And we do propose that the 2 younger generations, like millennials, born between 1981 and 1994, and Gen Z, born between 1995 and 2009, will express significantly more interest in something like cryptocurrencies than either the Gen X or baby boomers. So that was our hypothesis. So far, what did you expect from the demographic differences?
I expected Gen X to be more than boomers, but for millennials and Gen Z to be much more interested in Bitcoin.
Okay, interesting. So what you're saying is that you expected there to be actually like a linear line. So baby boomers to be the least interested, but for Gen Z to be the most interested, right?
Well, probably millennials because they're more mature in their thinking.
Okay.
So it would be like probably Gen X and Gen Z around the same, because they're what's it, like 19 years old or something is the cutoff for 19, 20. So yeah, when I was 19 or 20, I wasn't really thinking much about what I was investing in. I was just thinking about what was on TV, what game was I going to play.
Yeah.
So
That's true. Yeah, Gen Z, the cutoff, they'd be like 24 right about now. So,
oh, really? What the hell?
Yeah, 1995 babies. So it's not too young, but you're right. It is, maybe a little bit before they start. So
yeah, life hasn't really happened to you in full effect yet when you're 24, 25.
Right.
Just starting.
But
for sure, I would expect Gen Z to be way more interested in Bitcoin than boomers.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's we should put money on this.
We'll put 50,000 Satoshis.
That's so great.
That's only $5, so it's not that big.
Yeah. Okay, so then hypothesis 3 was about socioeconomic status and the classes, and we do expect that wealthier individuals will express higher knowledge about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and also express higher interest in the topic. So those were, and we're going to be looking at all of the data that we got in through gender effects, male or female, generation effects, millennials, boomers, and socioeconomic status effects. So that would be below poverty line, low income, middle class, and wealthy.
Perfect. And the one thing too is that like you see a real disparity between the demographics of people who are in crypto between men and women. I mean, it's like 90% men.
Wow.
Or even more. But I don't think that that's accurately portraying the interest levels. I just think that it's what, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that it's pretty much 50-50 between men and women interested in the survey. But when you look at Twitter and YouTube stats and all that, it's like 95 to 5.
Wow, that much between the genders. Wow.
And it's mostly because most of the content creators are men, and crypto Twitter is kind of like early technology adopters, and gamers and stuff like that, and that demographic naturally skews towards men anyways. So it's not that that women aren't interested, it's just that the men will go and seek that out, and then like they'll find other men that are influencers in the space, they'll follow them, they'll start interacting. And
Right.
but I think from an investment perspective, I wouldn't be surprised to see that it's pretty much equal interest when you just present the information to someone.
Very interesting. Well, we're going to find out.
We'll see.
We will see.
We'll put 50,000 Satoshis on that one too.
Perfect. Oh, okay. I got to keep track of this. Well, at least we have it on record. We have it on record.
Yeah, it's recorded.
So, and just the very last thing, we have the fourth hypothesis, which looks at education effects. And we kind of see the survey, which Brad Mills brilliantly wrote out, gives us and the survey takers a lot of information. So by the end, when we ask them another question about how they want to invest, we will actually see whether the survey and everything they learned throughout the survey about how Bitcoin is run, who backs and creates cash bills in the US. So we'll see if that had an effect. So that'll be education effects.